All right, hello everybody. Thank you for coming back for another episode of Finance Agents Live. This is Finance Agents Live, show number 30, and this is our first member office in-office interview. Very excited to be here with Larry and Max from Centex Funding. Thanks for coming by today, guys.
Welcome.
Sure.
All right. Oh man, I forgot to write it down. Okay, so if you've been watching the episodes, we've been updating you as we go. By the way, this is my first time holding this mic, so if you can't hear me, just scream into the chat box and I'll stick it in my face. As we've been going along, getting closer and closer to agent number 20,000. Yesterday, we had agent number 20,000, and I forgot to write down the name. I think I remembered it was Richard Sands. So we will, that's what it was, right, Darren? All right, we'll be reaching out to Richard Sands, but Richard Sands is going to end up winning free recruiter for a year because he's agent number 20000. So nice. Exciting for us. Hopefully it's exciting for him.
Very nice.
And we're okay. All right. So that is the update on agents. It's fun to hit that. We'll have to. What is? All right. Just don't even display that slide because that is wrong. All right. So now we have Larry and Max. They're here in the office. I'm very excited to have you guys here. They are office number 97 who has signed up with us, and they're a little bit new to our system, but they're not new to the game. They've been in lending and real estate for a long time. So once again, thanks for coming. Why don't you guys introduce yourself? Sure. Larry and Max.
I'm Max Eisenberg, and I'm kind of the marketing end of the office.
I'm Larry Eisenberg. I have a background in real estate and mortgages for about 27 years, and we just a couple years ago graduated over to business loans.
Great, awesome. And so, how did your partnership start?
That started almost 60 years ago. Actually, Max is my mother. We make a good team. We work well together. You want to?
Absolutely. Okay.
Add on to that a little bit?
Sure. We work great together, and what Larry might forget, I'll remind him, and vice versa, and it really works out good. I was at the point of retiring, and I don't even like that word because why would you want to retire? You don't want to retire from life. Anyway, I publish a newsletter for boomers and seniors called Suddenly 65. It's an online newsletter, and that doesn't keep me as busy as I'd like to be. And Larry was over for dinner one night, and he had just found finance agents, and he was talking about it, and he said, hey, let's go into business together, because of course he has a great background and I have a good marketing background. And I said, that sounds great. We talked about it all evening, and I don't think either of us slept that night after Larry left. I think we phone called back and forth, and I said, these guys are in the next county. They're close to us. I don't like to do something unless I can meet someone.
Right.
So I said, let's make an appointment and drive down, and let's meet this crew. And we were very impressed when we met them. I guess we met Tim and we met Trey, and they, gave us a tour of the offices, told us all about it, what they expected from us, and on the way home we said, let's do it. And as they say, we haven't looked back.
The rest is history.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's a fun partnership that you guys are doing. So this is the first combo we have like that.
I thought that.
Partnerships work really well with our structure, by the way. It's good for a division of labor in order to make sure everything gets covered and keep the ball rolling. So we really encourage it. So you're running the newsletter, and then more specific, why don't you talk about your background for the last 10 years or so?
10 years or so? Okay. Well, I'll skip it back to 27.
Okay, all right.
Which is when I got into the mortgage business, yes. So I got into the mortgage business in 87, licensed in California and Los Angeles, and became the top producer within a couple of months. And after about close to 2 years, I said, this is kind of easy. I think I'm going to start my own thing. And I did. So I started my own business in December 1990. And right after that, rates were coming down, but in 91, 92, rates were they dipped below 10%, and there was a refinance boom that went on for several years. So I rode that boom, then eventually got into real estate, had a couple other companies in the business along the way, in the escrow side and in the short sale processing side. And then got a little burnout after, close to 3 decades in the business. Always loved the money business. I saw the business loan side of the business, got involved, and then ultimately found finance agents. And Max told you the rest. We came in, et cetera. And here we are in that business.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, good. You've obviously owned a number of different businesses. Business loans and business lending has been exploding over the last 5 years. Of course, it's going through a transition now. Less working capital, more term loans, and we're adding all the private real estate loans, but it's a good time to come in. So how long have you known about us specifically? You said, when did you find us?
I think I talked to Trey about last...
beginning of the...
February.
Okay, great.
Maybe a year. We talked a little bit back and forth. And then just, a couple months later, got involved.
Okay, awesome. Well, good. So what are the different programs that you think you're most interested in? Or why is it that you wanted to run a funding company right now? Okay. You say you got out of the lending space, and now you wanted to get back in. Was there a specific thing that happened now that made you interested?
Only getting out specifically for mortgages and real estate, and get into wanting to stay in that business. There's some changes going on the last couple of years in that business, so I kind of was losing motivation.
A lot of regulations.
A lot of regulations.
Owner-occupied is...
Owner-occupied, no, that's non-owner, no, that's this, that, and that. So just was interested in the business loans business. And just we ran across finance agents. I was Googling around on the internet and found them, and then talked with Trey.
Also, I think the economy is ready for it now. I talk to people that say their businesses are going crazy, things are going well, and this is the time to get into the business.
Yeah, one of the things you're going to really see with us, and that I only really know this because we lived through the crash. Right? Yes. We were doing business funding when everything went wrong, and you may think that must have been a bad time to be in lending, but it was great. We grew like crazy because there's always going to be this section of people who qualify for funding but don't know it because when they go to the banks they get turned down.
Sure.
And during the good times, they're up here, and during the bad times, it's people with a better situation that just can't get funding. So it doesn't matter what the cycle is, funding is always available. It might shrink a little bit, but the need goes up, and so it's just as good. Well, we're glad that you decided to partner with us. Yes. You two have been really good, we've noticed, in the learning management system and going through and completing all the trainings.
Yes.
You've done a lot more than other people. So why don't you talk about your experience with us? What have you liked about it? Is there anything you didn't like about it that we could improve?
Well, I found in the beginning it was very daunting. A lot was thrown at us, and I'm pretty computer literate, but I kept thinking, oh, I'm never going to get through this, how to navigate it. And then once we did, and of course, all the videos that are so good, this is the greatest software I have ever seen. Actually, anyone who's computer illiterate can use it. It's very easy to use. It's right there for you. Everything's ready. We talk about this every day. I'm just delighted with the ease of working through it. And of course, in talking to new agents, and a lot of them come on and say, I'm not sure how to use the computer, and I explain how easy it is, and they're kind of blown away that it works so well.
Well, good. We can give Darren credit for a lot of that, who's running the system. He's built a lot of the tech by hand or run the team with other people. So I'm glad you like it. I'm glad that it's working for you.
Yeah,
very much.
Now, the online trainings, I don't know if you're sick of my voice. I appreciate you talking to me because there's a lot that we talk about on there. Do you feel like there's any parts of the training that could be more developed that you would need more on? I know I'm just springing this on you, but we're always looking to add more things to help people succeed.
The only thing that we had to get a little used to were just basic underwriting guidelines. I mean, in the manual and the trainings, it talks about underwriting guidelines. But obviously, once you start submitting loans and then realizing that there are other things for the different programs as far as guidelines. So that would be the only thing with me. Not a complaint, just
more detail.
More detail.
Right.
But as you're submitting, you're obviously learning.
That's the biggest part of the learning, right?
Yeah.
Half of it is what you see, hear, and read, and the other half is just getting in there and helping the clients. because there's so many different types of funding, you're always learning something new, which is one of the things that I really love about that. Like we were just talking before the show, they have a client that came to them recently that's looking to finance streets, the lit street signs. What were those again?
Oh, it was one of our new agents called us. Those those big signs you see in the freeways. I think they digitally blink. They can say anything from construction ahead to freeway closed, midnight to 6 a.m. through March 31. So whatever it is, he had a client that wanted equipment finance, or wanted to buy a bunch of those. So it was equipment financing, and I wasn't aware, at least with that product, that it could be done. So surely, in checking with an underwriter, it could be done.
Yeah,
so
I always find it interesting, these new things, as we were describing, that you drive by every day on the road, and you never think about. And then through this, you get to learn about how much they cost, where do they come from, how do you finance it, how many you learn about government contracting. You learn about so many different things that you just never even knew of before.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit before about the division of responsibilities. And the way you described it is Max is handling the relationships more, and you're dealing with the funding prospects more.
Yes.
Are there other things that you split up between you guys?
Yeah, in some of our downtime meaning when we don't have, at least for me, I don't have scheduled calls. And if Max isn't speaking with agents, kind of on an everyday basis for a little bit, we'll do things such as solicit through LinkedIn. We do some Facebook business page advertising where we get leads. But these are the things that at least now when we're busy, but we're not busy from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm sorry, 8 a.m. to 11:59 p.m.
There it is.
So we can take some additional time where we are now to ourselves handle advertising, developing more relationships through these couple of vehicles I just mentioned.
Yeah, and long term it will make sense. You're going to have your agents, and they'll always bring in a lot of business, but it's good to balance it out with other types of marketing. So if that gives you time to put that together, that's great.
You have to do that.
Why don't you talk about the last client that you just submitted? I think maybe it was last week. Tell us about that client.
Let's see. Our last one was it was a equipment finance. Okay. This is a doctor up in Northern California. They have 3 clinics. Definitely some credit issues, though I believe we can get beyond it. Huge deposits monthly into their checking account. Been in business 7 years, and they need just north of about $250,000 in financing for some specific equipment for their 3 different offices. So that was submitted. It's just in suspension right this moment, only because we need a couple updated documents. So I should have those in Monday or Tuesday, and it'll go back into underwriting.
Okay, so that's in review right now.
Yeah.
Right.
That was our latest.
Okay, great. So why don't you talk a little bit about the target market that you guys are planning on pursuing? Have you gone through the market focus structure?
Yeah.
Right.
And are you doing a local one, or is there a specific industry you guys are interested in, or are you doing it based on the funding programs that you like the best?
Sure. So let me talk about real quick as far as for loans, and then Max will talk about agents. But we're focusing on, if we get in a certain program or a certain scenario that fits into one of our programs, great, but we're concentrating on what's called our CRE, which is our commercial loans. And then we're also concentrating on what's called the UBF, that's unsecured business funding. So there's a couple programs where that at least me with the people, the prospective borrowers I'm talking to, I'm trying to see if they have, if that kind of loan fits into what they might be looking for.
Those are the ones you get the most traction with when you're talking to borrowers.
Yes. We've had others that have talked about, again, equipment financing, purchasing a business. We have one we're just about to submit for 4 women. They all work at the same animal hospital they have for years. They're going to be starting an animal hospital on their own.
Okay.
The 4. 2 are vets, one's a vet tech, one's the office manager, so it's a great blend.
Great.
So, thank you.
Can non-vets own a veterinarian clinic? Those are the things that pop up. My wife's a dentist, and you can't be a non-dentist and own a dental clinic.
Yeah,
so.
Good question. I did speak with an underwriter here. Because two are vets, it works. If they're not, if they would have been vets, we would have had to have found out and hopefully
found another way around it. There's always another way.
Yes.
So Max, how about on the agent side? Is there
on the agent side? Okay, you mentioned target market, and it's interesting because with the agents, you never know what they're going to need, what kind of products. It could run the gamut. Larry and I do a lot of networking, and we'll speak at different groups. For instance, I belong to a women's group that has about 90 women once a month, and they're all entrepreneurs. And guess what? They all need funding. So I go, I talk to them, and get their cards, email them, let them know what our products are. So that's my focus. And just trying to bring in some good agents that have need of, funding, finding the funding that people need.
Great. Awesome. Now, when you're thinking about growing your business, there's a lot of different ways we can grow. Like we have some people who own a member office where their whole goal is just to be sort of a one-man or one-woman band. And then there's some that are looking to grow large call centers. Are you more interested in offering the finance directly or building a team to offer? And what's sort of your plans for your office over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think for the long term, so let's just talk about a 5-year plan, it would certainly be to develop agents, get them up and going so they don't really need us. Of course, we'll still be talking. And then, of course, we'll still do our own loans, but the focus would be more volume, and we can get that, I believe, quicker with quality agents. So we're into the training of the agents, yes.
Okay, great. So you want to grow an agent team, but what about internal loan specialists? Or you imagine they agents generate a lead and you guys close it yourself? Or do you plan on growing a sales team?
I would say we've talked about both. As we're coming into this next year, the focus for this year will be to concentrate more on agents and then us personally producing and maybe a couple of salespeople. And then once we get to next year, which is a year away, we'll be refocused. It'll probably be on then maybe more salespeople in-house and continuing with agents.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. Well, awesome. I think that's really, what's your single most important goal for running the business? What's the one thing that if it happened, you would say, this is a success, my funding company is the success that I was looking for? What would that be?
I think two things. I think, of course, making some good money. That's, of course, why we're all in it. But, when you get up in the morning and you look forward to turning your computer on and seeing what's going on with your agents and the status of some of the loans we've sent in, that's awesome. And not everybody has that ability to love what they're doing. And this is just great. We're getting people funding that haven't been able to get it through their banks. They can work on their dreams because they have the financing. So I think that for me is my goal.
Yeah, I've got to be a little bit passionate. Not a little bit. I've got to be passionate about what I'm doing. So
right.
I do enjoy getting up in the morning. Once I've been up for 30 minutes, I'm checking emails, and it's nice to see either approval or 3 new agents came on overnight, or inquiry from someone that maybe one of us spoke to in the last couple of days to a week or two. They're now interested in getting going with a certain loan. So I love that. Of course, money as well, number 2.
All right,
yes.
Good. It's definitely one of the first things that I noticed when I got into this is how appreciative people are when you're able to get them the financing that they need.
Yes.
I remember one of the
Absolutely.
first clients I ever spoke with told me, he said, if you can get me the funding, I'll fly you out to Myrtle Beach and I'm going to put you out. He was doing this modeling show that he did every year and he didn't have the money for it. It's like, I'll fly you out, I'll put you in a penthouse suite and you and your wife can come to the show. And that was one of the first clients I ever talked to. Also, an interesting thing is the moment I found Trey and some of the other guys and discovered you can get loans for business. When I first got into this, I was driving home. I stopped at the dry cleaner, And the dry cleaner said, well, so what are you doing these days? And I said, well, I'm going to start working with some people that are getting financing for businesses. And she lit up my dry cleaner. Yes. She says, I need a loan. And I was like, wow, this is going to be awesome. So it's different from any other type of sale, because you're not selling somebody, they need the money. Now it's working with them to try to figure out how they can do it, because usually it's not a straight line. Usually you have to take a couple turns in order to get there. Well, good. I really appreciate you guys coming in for the interview. We have one last member office interview coming up next week. It was supposed to be yesterday. It got rescheduled for next Tuesday because our man got stuck on a flight back from Thailand.
Oh.
Anthony with Prestige Business Financial Solutions. He normally lives in Hawaii, so you got to feel real bad for the guy. He's office number 5. He's been with us for years, way before we had the member office structure. And he lives in Hawaii. He travels to Thailand, gets stuck on planes. So come back Tuesday, and we're going to have an interview with him. Besides that, if you're new to the show, then please subscribe, like the show. Your likes and subscription help more people like you. And then that's it for the day. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. We look forward to doing a lot more deals together.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right there.
Thank you.
All right, you bet.